Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be jumping into a bit of Overkill, some old school thrash metal. I'm actually a huge fan of Overkill, and so I'm quite familiar with a lot of their stuff. Not a band that I necessarily listen to often enough. Actually, I should check out more of their stuff more often. But this was suggested by a Jimmer who said it'd be nice to see some Overkill on their channel. I totally agree. So I'm going to check out a song called Ironbound, which is off their album, 2010 album of the same name, Ironbound. I remember when this album came out and absolutely loved it. I kind of feel Overkill is a little bit underrated. Um, and also, as far as like, there's been obviously these talks about, the big four of thrash, and people would say, well, what's the alternative, to that? Who else should be included in that? And Overkill is one of the bands that have always sort of been mentioned in there, and obviously they were really one of the original thrash bands. I mean, they've been around since '80. I think they were around before Metallica were, but they're obviously on the other side of the country, and so they've been around for a hell of a long time, and still consistently putting out some great stuff. The last few albums have been just tremendous, and I think Ironbound to me was kind of when I started getting back into their stuff again. I kind of lost track of their lost track of the band for a little bit, especially during the '90s. And I remember when Ironbound came out, and that kind of got me back into the band again, and it was just phenomenal. It was just on point. It reminded me of when Exodus sort of came back out of hiatus, and they put out Tempo of the Damned. And I just thought, Jesus, this is even heavier and faster than their earlier stuff, So and I kind of felt like Overkill did the same thing. There was a bit of a resurgence in the band, and absolutely slaughtered it. I remember because I've chatted to Bobby Blitz a couple of times, and the vocalist, and nice guy, and I mentioned to him about how the band is just so consistently good, just putting out their stuff, and there's a bit of like a bit of a fire in their belly, over the last few, at least in the last sort of like decade and a half or whatever. And he definitely agreed, and said that they just kind of just been, doing what they want to do, and kind of just going full tilt, and not slowing down. People talk about how long these thrash bands that started in the '80s, how long they can keep doing this kind of music. And yeah, good question. Absolutely great question. I don't know how long they can keep doing this kind of music, but it's unbelievable that they are still doing it. So, and Overkill is one of those bands that I have seen live. I've only seen them once, and they just absolutely blew me away. They were so good. They're one of those bands that just they sound so good on the album, and they sound even better live. So, let's get right into it. This is the song Ironbound, which I haven't actually heard in a little while, to be fair. So, I mean, it'd be great to sort of listen to it again. So here we go, Overkill, Ironbound. pause it there. I just love how the rhythm of this song, Bobby Blitz's cadence, the way he sings, and then the guitars and the drums, how they kind of like play with each other. This sort of like timing is just on point. Just a great song and just a great band who just know how to deliver the goods. And this is obviously not the kind of thrash. I kind of feel this is like definitely more on the old school side of things as far as thrash metal. It's not kind of modern thrash and it's not really like progressive sort of thrash, the kind of stuff that maybe Megadeth or even a bit of Metallica might actually do. Not Ironbound. Overkill is probably kind of more kind of rooted in sort of like 70s rock, I guess, but sort of stepped up and made faster. Like a little bit of Motorhead maybe, I guess. But I also hear a lot of Black Sabbath in there, especially the last few albums. There was definitely a huge Black Sabbath influence injected into their sound for some reason, which is interesting. But because Black Sabbath is not really a thrash band, nor do they do a lot of fast stuff. But yeah, I guess they're sort of wearing their influences on their sleeve, so to speak. But yeah, I'm down. This is such a great song, and like I said, all the working parts of the songs, the guitars and the drums and the vocals, they just all work so well together. Breakdown. Okay, a bit of an interlude here. I kind of forgot about this part here. They kind of slow it down a bit. Kind of reminds me of Master of Puppets. Another catchy passage right here. I gotta pause it right here. I know it's in the middle of a sort of solo section, but yeah, it's this song has definitely got a lot of working parts to it as well. I kind of forgot how long this song actually is. It's 6.5 minutes. Um, but I noticed like the certain passages that they kind of interject into the song here, they're all really catchy, and that's one of the things that Overkill do really, really well is they kind of have all these hooks, It's kind of a trademark with a lot of thrash bands from the 80s, I guess. But Overkill do it really, really well, where it's kind of just catchy and you kind of headbang to it, and it just has all the right sort of ingredients that makes such a great track. Like I said, I kind of feel like Overkill is a bit underrated. I think they kind of get overlooked in a lot of the bands. People talk about your Exodus and Testament and stuff like that outside of the big four, and I kind of feel Overkill kind of get overlooked a little bit. Even though they've been around. I think longer than any of the other thrash bands. They've been around since the beginning, really. So it happens quite a lot, actually, to be honest. Like there's certain bands who have been around longer than a lot of other bands, and then they kind of see other bands kind of pass them a little bit. And while they're kind of sort of they sort of remain where they remain, and people forget about the influence that they had and the fact that they've just had this long sort of career. The longevity of the band is sort of a bit unsurpassed. So yeah, it's interesting. It's always been one of the things that I've noticed about Overkill is that they I kind of feel like they're underrated. It is your favorite British heavy metal influence? And come back around again. There we go. Overkill with Ironbound of the 2010 album of the same name. Yeah, great track. It's like I said, it's the song and the album that sort of got me back into Overkill again. It's 15 years ago now when it was released. And they haven't stopped since. They just still put out great albums like that. Thank you again to Jimmer for suggesting that one. So I'm glad to sort of listen to a bit of Overkill again because it's yeah, been a little while since I've listened to them actually, to be fair. Sort of again, one of the bands you kind of forget about, and it's sort of always there. And Bobby Blitz still sounds phenomenal to this day. It's unbelievable. One of those guys that still hasn't lost his voice. I think I remember when I interviewed him, I was asking about his voice and any tricks or whatever that he does. For what I remember, I don't think he did have anything. I think he just kind of just did it and that was it. I'm sure he's got some kind of regiment or something that sort of we can look after his voice because you don't sing like that for 40 plus years and not have some wear and tear on your voice. Um, but there you go, Overkill with Ironbound. Thank you for tuning in as always, and please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you to those who have subscribed. We're slowly getting up there, and please check us out on our social medias if you haven't. It's all the links are in the description, and I will see you in the next video.